Hello! This video is brought to you by my supporters on Patreon and my members on YouTube. Minasan, arigatou gozaimasu. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation. It's an exercise that I do every morning, a little bit after waking up. It's now 4:55 a.m. I do this to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can get a copy of if you want from the link down in the description. I do recommend the hardbound edition. I also use this time to reflect on the last 24 hours, including my sleep, to see how I did with the challenges and opportunities that I met. I ready myself for the coming day. I actually have a checklist of all the things I want to do today, and then I finish up by preparing myself to die. And then I'm off to the races and begin my day. But before I start any of that, I always like to read a poem. So we're turning back to Edward Thomas, and we're going to read today, for the first time, a new poem for me called The Owl. Get my vocabulary pen at the ready. There we go. Now, Thomas is a tricky one to read. His syntax of his poems are complicated and winding, and sometimes I stumble a little bit. Let's see how I can do. It's not long. 1, 2, 3, 4 stanzas. The Owl. Downhill I came, hungry, and yet not starved, cold, yet had heat within me that was proof against the north wind, tired, yet so that rest had seemed the sweetest thing under a roof. Then at the inn I had food, fire, and rest, knowing how hungry, cold, and tired was I. All of the night was quite barred out except an owl's cry, a most melancholy cry. Shaken out long and clear upon the hill, no merry note, nor cause of merriment, but one telling me plain what I escaped, and others could not, that night as in I went. Ooh, ooh, wow. And salted was my food and my repose, salted and sobered too by the bird's voice, speaking for all who lay under the stars, soldier and poor, unable to rejoice. Jeez Louise. There's a poem for you. Gets this yellow mark on the title means significant poem for me. I can already tell that's the one. Imagine that. Now this is in a time, this is just around 19, he probably wrote this around 1915, something like that, right around there, that period. Maybe he wrote it in the war. Maybe he wrote it in 1917 when he died in World War I. Anyway, so picture that. So the owl, and he's been out all day, and he's about to escape indoors to the this shelter of the house, the warmth of the. It sounds like it's an inn. Is it? Yin. The shelter of the house, the warmth of the fire, the salty deliciousness of the food. I know that feeling because my wife makes this one kind of a salty meal sometimes, and when I go for my ocean swim, it's a particular meal. It's a salted type of meat. It's meant to be that way. Not too much salt, but just right. And when I come in for my ocean swim, and Yumiko is making that, it's that saltiness. It kind of does something. It's delicious to the part of you that's needing salt, because sometimes if you've exerted yourself a lot, you need a little bit of salt. It's a thing. So that, but then the thing about the people out on the sleep, the soldiers sleeping out of doors, and at this time in England, in many of his poems, he refers to poor people, particularly men, vagabonds of a sort, day laborers that are sleeping under the stars on bedrolls or in straw. So that's a thing. So the owl reminding him of what's outside as he ducks into the inn. Good poem. Now you see I stumbled a little bit. It's a tricky one. Like I said, the syntax, you can't just trust that the end of a line or the end even of a stanza is the end of a poem or a section or even a thought. He weaves and ducks and covers. I'll have to read it again tomorrow. And every time I read it, time I pass through it, it's like walking through a mountain valley. and seeing things anew, from things that are familiar, but seeing them again with new eyes. Okay, last night and yesterday. I slept all right last night, although I was feeling a little bit like I had a cold or something like that. There was kind of that scratchiness in the throat. Just didn't feel 100% yesterday, sleeping. And during the day, I had a very productive day. It's a slow week, but I had a very productive 2 days in a row. Today's Friday. Wednesday and Thursday were incredibly productive, even though it's a slow week. I got, at risk of saying it yet a third time, I got so much done. And I felt good, yet I didn't feel so good in the evening. I felt kind of a restlessness in the evening. Out when Yumiko and I were out walking, I was kind of quiet because just, sometimes it just comes, just kind of this not feeling quite 100%. A lot on my mind. I'm subliminally very worried about 2024. I'm nervous about this big move. I just don't get it. And I talked on and on about it yesterday in yesterday's meditation about how this is bothering me, and I know it shouldn't. Everything is set. Should go pretty smoothly. Emily's very close. By tomorrow, she'll be making a decision on a good job offer that she's got. I expect she'll probably take it. She'll probably be coming back from Japan then with job in hand, ready to start in July. We'll know more probably tomorrow if she makes that decision. Maybe today. Today was that they wanted an answer by the company. Wanted an answer by the 30th, which is today in Japan. It's the 29th here. Good for her. It's a good job and a good salary, so competitive. So I'm good. I'm glad for her. But I'm also nervous. She's entering that. It's the machine, right? That we all enter in adulthood after university or after school, after we decide to enter the workforce. The grinding machine, which can be very pleasant for some, although I really haven't met any those people that describe it that way, except the people to whom work is their distraction in life, right? The principle of distraction. And there's some people out there to whom it is a very worthwhile distraction and an enjoyable one. I know that to be the case. I'm not one of them. So for me, the 40 years of labor that I did, I'm at the end now, I'm going to retire soon. The 40 years of labor that I did was hard labor. I didn't enjoy it very much, ever. Maybe never. Not even the time when I had my own business. I didn't enjoy that very much either. That was hard labor too. And I do worry as Emily steps into the grind. But and I mentioned to her the other day, and that just, because we were talking about the salary that she's getting, I said, it's good. I think you can live well on that in Tokyo. But I cautioned her, and I said, you're not trapped in that job. You can switch jobs. I said, you only become trapped when you get into enough debt that you can't afford to be mobile, and so watch out for the debt. That's speaking from a deep experience. I did want to point out, though, that I'm very proud of her. She facilitated all of this on her own. Yumiko commented yesterday during our walk. She said, or it was our lunchtime walk. I wasn't feeling so moody. Lunchtime was good. I wasn't bad moody. I was just quiet. I told Yumiko I was just tired, but really it was more like a mental fatigue than a physical one. But in the lunchtime walk, I was feeling better. And Yumiko commented to me that Emily, she was impressed that Emily had located and secured a job in Tokyo, a good job in Japan, and in Tokyo no less, which apparently she reminded me is a thing. That's like back in the day when it used to be, the young country kids want to get a job in New York City or come to Hollywood and strike it rich there. Although this job certainly isn't striking it rich, but just landing a position, period. And I remembered how all those episodes of Midnight Diner that I've watched, and all the young people in their late 20s that either make it in Tokyo or have to go back to their home somewhere else in Japan with hat in hand. So yeah, she did it all on her own. Okay, so that was yesterday. Incredibly productive day. That's probably why I was so tired and fatigued in the afternoon. 2 days, both days, I mean, just astonishingly. I just can't believe it. I mean, I like caught up on things that I was hoping to do in January next year. I finished. I mean, I'm well ahead of the curve now for going into 2024. Um, I mean, sorry if I sound like I'm being too self-congratulatory, but I'm on my game now. And as an analyst and project manager, I'm on my game now at this point in my career. And I just went into the office and I said, we're going to take care of these things. And I set up meetings and met with people, and we just whipped stuff out. That's probably why I was feeling out of sorts in the evening. It was the exhaustion. It's the end of a marathon, a 48-hour marathon. And that's probably why I felt a little bit bad sleeping last night. And I still feel a little bit right now. I just wore myself out. And I haven't been in the ocean for like 5 days. Just it was too cold. And yesterday, giant waves. I went down and the waves were too giant. And I'm not getting there. That always makes me feel out of sorts. We'll see if I can get in the ocean today. I can go midday if I want, if the weather's nice. Just dip in. That's all I have to do. Okay, enough of all that. Okay. I read the poem. My checklist. Okay, let's do the Good Life meditation. 8 objectives and 35 principles. Today I'm going to linger on the principle of reason, which is principle number 2. The 8 objectives are as follows. Number 1, to be always ready to die. Number 2, to make good and effective use of my time. 3, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. To cultivate good emotional reactions. To perform good actions. To recognize true limits and true opportunities. To do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, just as I'm doing right now. This is not natural. This is contrived. I am actively making an effort to speak in this deliberate, controlled manner. But it becomes more natural the more I do it. I've been doing it for years now, so it's easy now. And then after that, to keep my balance. That's the 8. Now for the 35 principles, I'll go ahead and pull out the one I want to examine. It's like pulling a book out of a bookshelf. And by the way, these objectives and principles are all laid out in my book, Going Alone, in the chapter titled The Good Life. And I also do it every weekend. I do usually on Sundays, a book reading where I go over these. Well, I go over read the book. That book. So here we go. The 35 principles. The one I want to pull out is the principle of reason, number 2. This principle suggests that reason is the main principal instrument that I use in ascertaining what is true. Reason is the ability to look at something and to collect the relevant facts about it, empirical or thought ideas, and then weigh those and measure them and deliberate over them against taking the idea and applying it to the reality of the world around us to determine if there's enough evidence to support if it's true, if it's reasonable. You could also break this down to reasonable instruments such as the development of a syllogism to see if the idea will measure and fit into a logical argument. It also is the reason in the applicability of day-to-day practical activities. Reason is my arbiter of truth. It's the instrument that I use to determine what is worth believing and what is worth holding in doubt or disqualifying. Examples of this, for example, would be my daily Bible study. I've been reading the Bible for years and years and years. Every morning I make an effort to read one chapter of the Bible. Not an entire book, but a chapter. I do that. I'll do that immediately after this Good Life Creed, after my Good Life meditation. It's the next thing I do. And then I think about it. I read it. Well, this video is uploading. I read it. I think about it. I read all the fine notes. I read the Bible in both the King James edition and the New International Edition. I also read the Torah when I'm dealing with the first 5 books of the Bible. Why do I do this? I do this because I want to understand the information, the story, and then I listen to what people say. I watch podcasts. I talk to people, and then so that because this is a really important claim. This is the claim of salvation through religion. And it's the one that in my Western lifestyle, my Western framework, I think I encounter a lot. So I want to have a good empirical base to work off of it, and then I use my reason to deliberate over it to come to conclusions. So the claims, for example, let's just deal with one of Christianity. I used to be a Christian. I am no longer a Christian because the claim of Christianity, the claims that are made regarding things like a soul or free will, or the stories that are in the Old and New Testament, don't add up. They don't measure. They don't measure in accord with what reality seems to demonstrate, nor do they even seem very moral. So I reject those things. That's a case where you take a claim, the claim of Christianity's salvation through Christ's resurrection, and put that aside and say that clearly is not true, nor is nor the foundational claims that are presented in the Old Testament, the foundational stories, Moses, Abraham, the flood. So with those, basically the foundation of that whole apparatus of the Abrahamic religions is eroded away and falls down, and so I can just set that aside. I don't have to worry about that. That's reason, as the arbiter of truth, has disqualified those from being reasonable claims. So I can move on to other things. I still read it every day because it's fun, and also I learn more, and also, hey, I could be wrong, so I better keep on trying, right? And I don't read other religious texts necessarily. I have, but some, but not very many, because those aren't the ones that keep coming up in my life. So I think I've gone on enough about reason. I also use it on a day-to-day basis, applying it to all kinds of little things, medium things, and big things too, all day long. There you go. That's reason. Let me go ahead and recite the good life principles now, 35 of them. There we go. Reason is in there. War, reason, homunculus, anchorhold, home of good and evil, purpose, atomic principle, nature, pirate ride, maturity, social principle, family, public speaking, temperance, life will not go well, the horror show, that which must be born, the feast of woeful, distraction, agency and the great indifference, the best seat in the house, the restless man, the path of wildness, the great life adventure, the risk of avoiding risk, sin and damnation, complete oblivion, the season of philosophy, script writing, the bullseye aim, the uphill climb, arena and utility, nothing is enough, the principle of fun, and being prepared. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Come. Okay, so what's next? What am I going to do for today? Well, I always have a checklist every day. Here's it's the 29th day of December 2023, day 352 in my countdown to retirement. I usually have a column for personal activities and a column for work activities. No work activities today. So I'm already working through my list. The things I'm going to do today are the poem, which I just read, Scratch, Good Life Meditation. I'm just finishing that now, Scratch. I answered all my YouTube I get up at 4 a.m. and between that time and the time of starting this, I do a couple of things while I sip my coffee. I answer all YouTube comments, and I did that. I answered all Meta comments. I did that. That would be Facebook and Instagram. I did my email. I answered all my email already. I haven't read the Bible, but I'll do that next. After that, here's what I haven't done yet. What remains after I'm done with this? I'll read the Bible. I'm working in the Gospel of Luke today. I'll edit illustrate a page of this book, which is going to a viewer. I'm going to update all of the videos on my Facebook, on my YouTube channel, Walking in Japan, for the Stoic Poetry podcast. I'm going to update all of them with new titles, descriptions, and tags. I'm then going to read. I'm currently reading this book right here. I'd like to get a good way through. Maybe I'll go to the beach and read it there. Then I'll take a nice long walk. I'm going to clean up Emily's car, get ahead of her return, and then I'll update my journal. 12 things I plan to do today. Last thing. Am I ready for death? My criteria for death's readiness includes 3 things. 1, are my affairs in order? 2, are my relationships sound? And 3, is my life's work complete? My affairs are definitely in order. Everything's packed away over there. All the documents are square. That's all taken care of. Excuse me. Are my relationships sound? Yes. Is my life's work complete? My book's done. My daughter's grown. She's got a job in hand. She'll probably be selecting that job today. So yeah, she's good. I'm good. My life's. I'm ready to die. I can go now without a single backwards glance. So how might I go? Well, I'll be pedestrian today. I could go out with a simple heart attack any moment. Just like my dad. Took him out in a matter of just a minute or so. That's very likely. I could die today. The pain would come on, the congestion, and then maybe I would be out like a light, and that would be the end. Oblivion, eternal oblivion. Or, if I've been wrong about all this stuff about the Christianity, maybe my burning days will begin. I'll start my torment in hell. Or maybe it'll be the Buddhist hell. Or maybe one of any other type of a torment. Or maybe I'll get reincarnated as a sea urchin for my folly. Who knows? I think there's nothing but oblivion that awaits. I'm in that same empty nothingness beyond emptiness, that same nothingness that we never knew before we were born. I think that's exactly what awaits for us when we're gone. So, in this world, I'll carry on as best I can for the day, working through my checklist to the end of the day. And then I'll have a nice walk at lunchtime with my wife, another nice walk in the evening with my wife, and then have dinner together. We'll watch our show, and then I'll go to bed and sleep well. And for now, I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care. I will move forward and up. I will rarely stop, and I will never